gym. She's a CrossFit trainer, and I met him 5 years ago.
5.5.
5.5 years ago. And yeah. And then my life's never been the same since.
In so many good and bad ways.
So many good.
And bad
So
ways.
many good. So many. Why would you say bad?
I'm saying, man, you got to take the good with the bad. You know that.
We've had our ups and downs and everything else, but at the end of the day, we're still brothers. We still love each other. So.
The intersection of good drinks, good music, and good times. This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations.
We got a fun episode for you this week as we talk with Chris and Ben from the BoomTown Saints. They got one of my favorite songs out right now, Blacktop Don't. I think you heard that in one of our 4-packs here last couple of weeks. And also, if you haven't, don't forget to check out our Neat and Mixed reviews, where we do our shorter reviews on bourbons and whiskeys, sauced on food, all sorts of other fun stuff. You can find that on all of our social media and at hopspirits.com, where you can find past episodes of this show, our sister podcast, Hops and Spirits Kentucky, and so much more. But without further ado, let's get into another 4-pack. This week, our 4-pack is on duo songs I love right now, or what I'm calling duo songs. First up, Ed Sheeran and Luke Combs, Life Goes On. Stripped down, but all you really need is their voices, and boy, do they shine on this one. Up next is Niko, Moon, and Zach Brown, Heaven Has a Bar. Slightly different tune than Ed and Luke, but a great pairing. Love both of these guys. Third is where I kind of maybe stretch it on a duo, James Barker Band and Dalton Dover, On the Water. Perfect summer song, and I'll call this a duo, and it's a fun combo. And last but not least, Lewis Brice and Lee Brice, product of brothers coming together for this one, and a nod to their parents and their upbringing in South Carolina, and it's their first ever collab too. And that's the 4-pack for this week. Remember, drink responsibly. Up next is our conversation with the BoomTown Saints. Enjoy.
Did you know Hops and Spirits is more than just this podcast? Check out hopspirits.com for our latest episode release, past episodes, interviews with interesting folks in the alcohol industry, and so much more. Just go to hopspirits.com. Feel free to wait until this podcast is done.
Joining us for our conversation this week, they're better known as the BoomTown Saints, but welcome in Chris Ramos and Ben Chism.
Thank you for having us. Glad to be here.
Well, I appreciate y'all joining. Now, this is my first question all the time. I think I know that you're drinking something tonight. I got a little Chicken Cock Double Oak, little 8-year whiskey. You guys got anything good?
This is Ben's go-to everywhere. You can give him the highest dollar stuff, and he's going to go with the old Evan.
I'm going to go with this till the day I die.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's a staple on the road for us. So the whole band is that's kind of what's always around.
Well, the coolest thing is I did a blind taste test with a bunch of friends. Just brought a flask, and I said, "What do you think this is?" And they were like, "Oh man, that's Angel's Envy. That's Woodford. That's what." I went, "Nope. It's the cheapest stuff you can get. It's the best stuff you can get. I mean, it's Evan Williams. Can't go wrong."
Now, Chris, you got anything?
I'm rolling with Ben tonight. I mean, I'm normally a rum guy myself, rum or tequila actually, but
tequila for sure.
Yeah, but tonight, when we're at home relaxing, it's and Ben's here. We're going with the Evan.
I like it. Now, when you say rum, do you ever dabble in the bourbon finished in the rum cask? Because I like that.
I do actually every now and then. There's actually one that I've been messing with here lately. It's actually local here to Nashville. It's called Mirat, Mirat, and it has like a coconut and vanilla twist to it, and it's that's kind of been my go-to lately. It's hard to find, and if you can find it, I swear to you, it's worth it. But yeah, I mean, I rum and tequila are kind of typically where I go the lighter look. But like I said, when Ben's around, we're on the Evan.
Now, do you put that in your riders to always get a little Evan Williams everywhere you go?
We try to, but typically we have to.
Most of the time, they know it's already happening. I've already gone to the store and we've got a handle of it ready to go.
Now, are you having a drink on stage 2 to warm up those vocal cords?
We actually do before we go on, and it's more of it's both a combination of the cut and everything. I mean, because we typically eat about an hour before, and it's not what you're going to get sometimes. And so to cut everything that's going on in your throat, but also it's a tradition of our band since the day we formed that before we walk on stage, and it's not just to be drinking. It is we're very big into making sure that you acknowledge every step of the journey and appreciate where you're at. And so we always do a quick, it's a double edge for us. We were able to cut everything here and also acknowledge, wherever in the world we're at that moment, what we're doing, we always are grateful for it. So right before we walk on.
Now, I got to ask, you mentioned, since you guys been formed, y'all knew each other outside of music first before you guys got into music together, right?
We did. I met him at my wife's gym. She's a CrossFit trainer, and I met him 5 years ago. 5.5 years ago. And and then my life's never been the same since.
In so many good and bad ways.
So many good.
And bad
So
ways.
many good. So many. Why would you say bad?
I'm saying, man, you got to take the good with the bad. You know that.
We've had our ups and downs and everything else, but at the end of the day, we're still brothers. We still love each other. So,
I love that. Well, and then obviously, meeting outside of that, is the story true that Ben, you needed a little help at a gig, and that's kind of where everything took off? Like you're just like, I just need someone.
I literally said that. I looked at him and I was like, dude, I just need you to hold a stick up there. I don't even care if it sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, well, so I've been in Nashville, and now it's been 25 years. I've been here for 20 years at the time. So I just knew a lot of people. This is home. I lived in Southwest Florida when I was a kid, but this is home. And so he did committed the cardinal sin of Nashville musicianship, and he took a gig out of town on 10 days notice in the middle of summer. And I mean, you can find musicians to go with you, but you can't always find good musicians to go with you in the summer because they're typically booked. And he asked me, he was like, can you help me find a bass player? So I went on a mission. I went on a mission for, I guess, 8 days, asking everybody I could possibly think of and waiting on responses. And then it was Wednesday before the Friday show. We struck out. I was like, bro, I don't have anybody. I'm so sorry. And he had known I was a musician in a former life. I play guitar. And he knew that. And he was just like, man, can you literally hit the exact question?
Can you hold a stick and make it sound halfway decent? It's like, it's all good.
And so I said, yes. It was 8 to 10 songs isn't hard to learn on 2 days. Unfortunately, 45 was, I didn't know he was a cover band at the time. I mean, he was kind of on the downside of his solo career. I didn't know any of this. So it was 45 songs on 2 days' notice I had to learn on bass, and we did it.
He did a phenomenal job.
Thank you, sir.
And then did the duo and everything, the band kind of build from there? How did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things that first night. It was an interesting night. So we went down there, and at this point in Ben's career, more of that if you don't mind. At this point in his career, he had told me he was going to stop playing music in December. It's going to be his last show. You're good. Thank you, sir. That's plenty. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Yeah, that's plenty. Thanks.
Okay.
He told me he was his last show was going to be in December. And so we were just there to have fun. And, he was doing a bunch of cover stuff, and it was a college gig at this amphitheater that we were playing at. And we went out there, and I hadn't been on stage in a while. I was in the corporate world. And
you couldn't tell.
Well, I had left that behind, and I always missed it. And so we got on stage, and I was just having fun. Ben was doing his thing that, made him successful in those circles and got him signed as a solo artist back in the day, which, just crooning people and, making them want to hear more. And I was just able to jump around stage and have a good time. And by the end of the night, it was something, the combination of the Jekyll and Hyde, the push and pull of the two personalities, it was different. We got invited back to come back to that same location before we left. The next week we went to a different city. The same thing happened. And it was the third week that happened that we were like, maybe we should try to combine forces here.
Now, why didn't you settle on Hopscotch Mafia is what I want to know.
I just want you to know.
You know exactly why we didn't settle on Hopscotch Mafia.
I can't rap. Let's just put it that way.
And we're not a boy band. So it was a bad combo.
There's no rapping.
Yeah, no. So Hopscotch Mafia though it did its job. So that was an old flag football team name I had, and we won a lot of stuff with it. And I was like, it's a fun name. We wanted people to remember us, and that was the goal. I was like, let's have a name that people will remember. You cannot forget. And it worked. I mean, everybody remembered us. Actually, to this day, we have people coming up to us, and they'll be like, I remember when you were Hopscotch Mafia. We actually had a show in Indiana last week. Somebody showed up with a piece of cardboard, and they turned it around, and they had drawn out our old Hopscotch Mafia logo.
Perfectly, by the way.
Perfectly. And so, it was memorable. And when we started getting involved in the labels, and it started becoming serious, half of them loved it. Half of them absolutely hated it, but it was successful because every one of them remembered it. And so, but we decided we should probably do something that was more in line with what we sounded like and were those days, but also make it so that half the people didn't hate it. So we moved over to BoomTown Saints.
Well, and how did you settle on BoomTown Saints? Because I feel like obviously if you're picking out new names, that is not the easiest thing to do.
It was difficult.
Well, I mean, we were sitting in the studio with our producers and everything else. We wanted to figure out something that embodied everything that we were doing, everything that me and Chris were trying to accomplish with not only what we're doing, but with the brand as well. And Boomtown is any town defined, oil town, coal town, success. And, we started 5.5 years ago, basically, when we met, but it was only about 2.5 years ago when everything started getting really serious. So we decided it was like Boomtown. That's perfect. And then Saints is a nod to our faith. We are deeply rooted in our faith. And by no means whatsoever are we saints. But we just kind of wanted to give that nod out there for people who wanted to know.
I love that, and I always love sometimes where names come from, and you touched on this too, where you guys were doing a little bit of different things before you got into to music. Both were in the medical field, is that right?
So Ben was actually his degree in biology, and he skipped medical school to go into music, and then he was on his way back to medical school. At that point, we dove into this thing, and I was in pharmaceuticals. I was a consultant, and I helped pharmaceutical companies commercialize products. So I'd work with the government and work with technologies and help them figure out how to get people to take their product.
He's got some really good stories about security clearance.
Yeah, I do.
Off air.
Really good ones.
Yeah. You're working in DC, working with the NIH, working with and so that's what I was doing. I mean, it was a great job. I'd say, I loved the paychecks out of it, but it's once you have that, music in your blood, and no matter how hard you work, you're making somebody else wealthy, and no matter how hard you work, you just take on more people's work and you don't get anything for it. That was wearing on me after a while. So when this opportunity came up, it was one of those things when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to talk about, remember that one year I made that money. You're going to talk about what you did with your life and being
all the things that you didn't do.
Yep.
And but for me and Chris, I think it's one of those things that we both have girls. He has 3, I have 2. And, the biggest accomplishment, I lost my dad when I was 19 years old. I still don't have a voice recording of his voice. I can only hear it in my head. And one of the biggest accomplishments that I think that me and Chris have is that no matter where we're at, if we're gone or anything, our girls have something to go back and it's like, that's Daddy's voice. Mm-hmm. That's one of the biggest accomplishments that we have, in my opinion.
Now, did you guys grow up on music when you were younger, or was this something you got into later on?
So, for me, both of our stories are a little bit different. My brother is 6 years older than me. He brought a guitar, he got a guitar when he was 11 years old, something like that. He played a couple tunes, and it sucked. Let's just put it that way. It sucked. It was terrible. And I was like, please, dude, can you stop? But after a while, he started becoming just amazing. He's an amazing guitar player now.
Really good.
And so he and I would start singing together, and the harmonies were great. We would play songs, we'd play for the family, and and that's where it kind of went. And then in 8th grade, I entered into a talent contest, and I sang, got second place, and everybody was like, "Dude, that's awesome!" I was like, "Cool." Started singing karaoke. One thing led to the next, and how many ever years later I met this guy right here. But
yeah, and for me, my dad was a guitar player my whole life. He's actually fantastic. I'll never be the guitar player he was. But my mom sang, my mom's mom sang, a lot of my aunts sang, and so I had that. I grew up around that, and so I learned to sing harmonies. Started learning guitar. The first thing I actually started learning was when I started middle school. I started middle school really young, but I spent all my time in the band room, and I just played a ton of instruments. By the time I was done with middle school, I could play 13 instruments. When I got out of middle school and started going to high school, I started realizing that, I was very shy, introverted, and I started realizing that playing the oboe and clarinet and tuba was not going to allow me to talk to girls. It taught me a lot about music, and it taught me a lot about discipline and what it needs to teach you, and I made a lot of friends out of it. But I had a lot to say, and I couldn't say it, so I started playing the guitar and writing when I was probably 12, 13 years old. So and that's what I've always stuck with: drums, guitar, and then later on I've learned to play the piano. So those are the three things that I ran with.
Dude, this conversation is bringing up a memory. Also in 8th grade, I was in the choir. Now, let me put it this way. 2 guys, 60 girls.
Smart man, man.
So that's why y'all got into music.
It's like us at our houses now.
That's exactly what it is. It's like
we have all daughters.
The only Y chromosome is us. Well, actually, you've got a girl. You got a boy dog. I've got 3 girls. 3 girl dogs.
Yeah,
that's it.
It was getting you ready, man. It was getting us ready. Come on now.
I love that. And you mentioned, what is it like? Because I remember reading somewhere where you guys were, or one of you had said one word to describe you, and it was just, fathers and dads. What's it like to be girl dads? Because I am one as well.
It's there's nothing. So I have 3 daughters, 15, 8, and 8.5 months. No, 9 months this Saturday.
9 months.
9 months this Saturday. And I didn't appreciate when I was, my 15-year-old was born. I was young, and I didn't appreciate what it was to be a girl dad. I started learning when the second one was born. I was always a good dad. I was always present. I always took care of them, but I just didn't have that understanding. When the third found out we were going to have a third baby, I
remember this.
I was praying for a girl. I wanted a girl so bad, and when I found out it was a girl, I cried like a baby. Right in front of everybody. My wife's whole family was on FaceTime. I mean, my other 2 daughters, and I cried like an absolute. I was the only one crying like a baby because I wanted a girl that bad, and that's really the only way I can sum up being a girl dad.
Okay, so for me, I have 2 beautiful daughters. I have a 14-year-old stepdaughter who I've had since she was 5 years old. That's my baby, and then I have a 3.5-year-old terrorist.
It's a 3.5-year-old him.
It's a 3.5-year-old me.
That's kind of the situation.
And I'm not gonna lie. I mean, that she is the perfect representation of me as a kid. It's terrible, but I was the opposite of him. I wanted a boy so bad I couldn't stand it. But I basically got one in female form.
I'll tell you what.
She is rough. I could body slam that chick all over the
You body slam your 3.5-year-old?
Absolutely, I do. And she loves, Daddy, let's do it again. I'm like, oh, God, you're going to be tough. This is awesome.
No, my 15-year-old, when we were going to have, when we found out it was a girl, I wanted a boy so bad I actually teared up in the room when we found out it was a girl. And then we went shopping 2 days later for clothes. Hooked. Done. Never wanted a boy since that day.
Okay. Did I ever tell you that story?
No.
Okay, so my wife's a little bit older than I am, and I've had my stepdaughter for forever. And when we decided to have a baby, all of our friends were having babies, I was like, oh, that's awesome. So she comes up to me and she's like, hey, what do you think about this? I had a onesie in her hand. I said, that's really cool. Is that for Hendrix? Because our friend, babies. And she said, she started crying. She said, no, you're going to be a daddy. And I was like, oh, that's awesome.
I love
that's
it.
how I identify. I know how bad Ben wanted to be a dad, and that's how we identify these days.
Well, I mean, there's nothing. I love that, and like I said, I'm a girl dad. I got a 4.5-year-old, and there are times my wife and I look at each other and going, "That's not us as a young child. That is us now in child form. This is terrifying." When did she get this clever?
Yeah, there's that. Yeah,
like I don't want to see what 16-year-old looks like.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
You don't.
You really don't.
You don't. I love my 15-year-old, but
you don't want to see what it is yet, man. Just savor the moments where she wants to hold your hand.
Enjoy it.
Okay.
We were on a hike today, and she was holding my hand, and I was loving it.
It's the best, man.
That's the best.
And clearly, family means a lot for y'all. What impact do they have on everything you all do?
Everything.
Yeah, man.
They impact everything.
The thing about Ben and I is we neither of us are in what we do for. We love performing. There's no denying that. We love being on stage. It's fun. The grind around it is so intense sometimes that it is exhausting. I mean, both emotionally and physically. And one thing about us is neither of us are in it at all for the purposes of fame. It's not to be like, oh, I want to be seen and I want to be on magazine covers. I mean, we understand that, as things are progressing, things are we're getting noticed in various places and that kind of thing. And it's cool. It's always unique and we love it because it's like, wow, that's us. Like we're just us. But the whole reason we do it is we know what the potential there is to set up our daughters' lives for their future. You have a potential in doing this with all the writing we're doing and the performing we're doing that can keep giving when we're not there to give. And that's the entire reason we chose this path. Obviously, we were able to do it and we had this opportunity and we didn't want to just leave it on the table. But that is the driver behind it, because if it were not for them, I can guarantee you we both would have mailed it in and done other things a while back, because it's not easy. I mean, it is very difficult to do. It looks fun and it is fun. We love it. We are so blessed to be in this situation and we would never take any of it for granted. But what people don't see behind the scenes of what it takes to do this, we would have mailed it in a long time ago if it weren't for our daughters.
Yes.
Well, I was going to say, they see the instant, they see the success, but they don't realize the 10, 15 years it took to get to that point.
Yep. Everybody sees you on stuff. I'll give you an example. We had one of the greatest shows this past weekend. We had two of them in Eaton, Colorado, and Grand Junction, Colorado. We went and played the show. It was just an awesome show in Grand Junction. Nobody saw that we drove in right before the show. We drove 5.5 hours right before the show. Show ended at 11. We had to load out. We went back to the hotel. We were in bed around 1:30, and we were up at 5 to drive 5 hours back to the airport to fly home. That kind of stuff. It takes a physical and emotional toll on you. And that's why I'll say, if anybody watching this, I mean, you see your local musicians at a bar, you don't understand what they put in behind the scenes to do it. We came home and we immediately started working on leaving this Friday at 5. Our flight's at 5:15 a.m. We're gone for 17 days when we leave. And we've been working 6-7 hours a day since we've been home, just getting ready for that trip. We're only home for 3 days. So, but again, the goal and what it's going to do for our families is the driver, and we'll never stop because of that.
Now, what music did you guys grow up on and made an impact on y'all?
I know for me, I grew up on more classic rock. My dad did not like country music, so I did not hear it for a very long time until my brother brought it in. So I grew up on the more of I guess you would say, a newer age country, where it was Toby Keith, Garth Brooks, George Strait, Kenny Chesney, Keith Urban. That's where I kind of started and worked my way up from. And from there, I mean, it was just, wow, the stories in country music are absolutely amazing. So it gripped me to that and led me to, this.
Yeah, for me, so I actually started on smooth jazz and R&B. My dad, as a guitar player, was a jazz guitar player. My very first concert ever was Earl Clue. And nobody has a clue who that is, unless you know what smooth jazz is. And it's, but that's and George Benson. My second concert ever was a guy named Boney James, who is a jazz saxophone player. And I grew up on that. That eventually turned into the Boyz II Men and Brian McKnights of the world. Probably my two favorite artists of all time, Boyz II Men and Brian McKnight. Those are my major influences. When you hear songs, we have some songs coming out. There's one specifically that'll be later, either later this year or early next year that I wrote a lot of it. Well, I wrote the melody and the guitar part, and when you hear it sung, you're like, oh, that has a very R&B feel to it. So I kind of go back to that. But that said, it was probably, I don't know, probably 15, 18 years ago. Being here in Nashville, it's hard to escape it. Country music. I started really paying attention to words a lot more and understanding how songs are structured. And I started realizing that, like Ben just said, the best songs in the world are country music because it's about the story. When I started figuring that out, I started listening more and more and more. And now that's all I listen to. Every now and then I'll go back and listen to an album by Boyz II Men.
No, we were driving on the way back home from, I forget where we were. It was Wisconsin. And I turned, I think you were in the back asleep. And I was like, crank it up. Tell me why it ain't nothing but a heartbreak. And I just started going like this. Like, I can't even remember. But yeah, I was like, okay, cool. That's some childhood memories.
Yeah. So, but these days it's all country all the time, just because I appreciate the grind and the stories.
Well, I was gonna say the stories is something that I enjoy with the songs that you guys have put out. What is the writing process like for each of you? Are you kind of similar, different, always work together? How does that work?
It's well, we work together almost all the time. We do write separately. There's different. That's the cool thing about what we've been doing, and why we're thankful for our label 8-Track Entertainment, Noah Gordon and Gary Crane, our producers. They have introduced us to some of the most legendary writers this city has ever seen. One of the very first writes that we ever got to do was with Keith and Adrian Follissey, and people won't know their names, but if I say things like something like that by Tim McGraw, and I Love You by Martina McBride, and Cry by Faith Hill, and Breathe by Faith Hill, they wrote those songs. And they introduced us to them and sent us to write with them. And, getting involved in that level of writing, I mean, the Philip Whites of the world, who's written multiple number ones, James LeBlanc and Dave Pahanish. These people are legendary writers in this city and for country music. And, we've been able to get involved with them. And the more we get involved with them, we start splintering and doing more things for other people on top of ourselves. But our writing process, typically it starts with Ben and I will send ideas back and forth 5, 10, 6, 7 times a week. We'll send ideas and we'll send a melody back and forth. One of them stick.
Most of the time, it's something that I heard and I was like, you know what? That was stupid enough. I'm going to write it down. We might turn it into a song.
Yeah, or just it's anything. You come up with an idea and you're like, we send it back and forth and we'll start flushing it out. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll take it to these guys and we'll sit down with some of these legendary writers and say, hey guys, here's this idea we have, and here's a melody we have. Can you help us craft this? And, the process really that we found is we pull on personal experience. I know it's we're not good at writing based on this idea over here. I'm going to write an idea based on something I've never experienced. Again, an example. We have a song on our EP called "How to Lose a Lady," and we went into a write with Keith and Adrian Falasay, and Adrian had this. She had an idea. She said, "I have this idea. It's called How to Lose a Lady. I don't have any lyrics, but I have this melody, and it's na 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 na." So we started writing it, and I pulled on personally. I'm remarried, amazing friends with my ex-wife, but my new wife, she's also remarried, and she told me the stories about what her ex-husband, the way he used to take her for granted, sitting at home not doing anything all day long, and she'd come home after working 10 hours and cook dinner for them, and then he'd ask her to wash his clothes. Pulled on that heavily to write that song. Same thing with Ben. So, I mean, we definitely pull from personal experience these days more than anything.
And so clearly you do write songs about your family then.
100%.
Oh, absolutely.
Good woman.
A Good Woman, which is going to come out on the
full-length
album. Okay, so, I mean, God, Philip White and James LeBlanc, we just that song was crafted perfectly for our wives. And the reason we did that is because our wives, both of them, kept saying to us, "Hey, look, you haven't written a song about us yet."
But you know what's crazy is when you have that idea, and the idea was simple. And I mean, we play it on the road right now, and everybody's going to hear it. And the hook is, a good woman makes you want to be a good man. And I mean, in what we do for a living, we will put our reputations on the line anywhere in the world. Everybody knows that a good woman, which we have, makes you want to be a good man. And we have a spotless reputation out on the road. And so we just wrote about it.
That, and we don't like to be killed.
Yeah, but you know what?
No, I'm just kidding. She's threatened it.
And his wife can beat him up. So there's.
I mean, like literally, she is 5'4", 155 pounds of solid muscle.
She's across the corner. So,
yeah, she'd kill me.
Yeah. That you got to be careful. That's why you wrote the Good Woman song, and something that they would love to hear.
Yeah, but pulled from a place of when we're on the road. I mean, everybody knows this. But I mean, there's a lot of people out there that just don't have, that moral gumption that's needed to be out on the road. And man, it's easy for us.
You remember what happened to me in Hanover, Maryland, right? I told you about that.
Oh yeah.
Had a lady, just a little bit older. She came up and she was like, she gave me a kiss right here. I'm like, that's cool. Gave me a kiss right. I'm like, that's cool. Then she grabbed my head and she was trying to kiss me, and I was like, oh, oh.
I got a good woman at home, man. I got a good woman at home, man.
I don't want to be dead, but
got a good woman.
My wife's a good shot too. She can hit me from Nashville and Hanover.
You got to be careful. And obviously, like when you're writing songs and stuff, obviously sometimes you have a little bit more fun with them, and then maybe. Others, your first kind of single that hit the waves, All Trucks Go to Heaven, got a lot of great feedback from critics, fans. What was it like when that one kind of took off for y'all?
That one was, the reason we led with that song is because it's very easy to, duos are one of the more unique groups in or artists in country music. Not unique and like, oh, we're the best, but it's very unique. You don't have many duos to reference, and so the duos that you do have to reference, it is very easy to compare other duos to those reference points. One of the things that we wanted to do was establish that, look, we can sing, we can be artists, we can tell stories. When you come see us, you're going to get real country music, because when you, this is your baby girl. That's awesome. Because when you, that's awesome. Mine are upstairs right now. And I'm like,
hold on a second.
That's the best, man. There's nothing better than that. There's nothing better.
We're on a little trip with our good friends down in the Red River Gorge. And I thought they were going to be, out and about. about the whole time
No, man.
tonight.
That's the best,
So-
man. There's nothing better.
There's
than that.
there's nothing better.
There's
I
nothing
love
better than that. If she could sit in the whole thing, that'd be awesome.
Oh, she's done a few of them.
Well, dang, man, she's famous. That's awesome. No, but yeah, I don't even remember. I was telling.
Oh, dude, no. When babies get involved, we just lose our minds.
Yeah, I know. I just.
All trucks go to heaven. That's all I got.
Oh yeah, I'll show that. Yeah, so it was very intentional to be able to show artistry, to be able to show you can sing, to be able to show that you are country music. Because we do have, we are classified by multiple publications as rock forward, because our live show is very much rock forward. It would be very easy to compare us, and it happens a lot, to compare us to other duos that have been before us. So we definitely put that one out there in order to establish the ability to, be a country artist. And it allowed us to open up and have some freedom on the creativity side after the fact, like people are singing with Blacktop Don't.
Well, no, I was going to say Blacktop Don't. That's probably one of my favorite songs I've heard in a good while. And how did that one come to be?
So we
You tell it, and I'm gonna tell my side.
Yeah,
Of it.
so we were in. So the thing about our job goes beyond just performing. Our job is also being responsible with what the consumers want to hear. As a matter of fact, we have a history with our record label and management of fighting against songs we wrote to go on the album. We actually had a situation when we were arguing. There's one that's going to be on the album later this year, and we argued. We wrote it, and we argued hard against it because we wanted another one that was very similar. And you can't have them both because they were too similar. And we argued hard against this. We were like, no, we want this song. This legendary writer Bill Luther wrote, and which we're still going to record it. But,
Yes, we are.
But he wrote the song, and we heard it. It was the greatest, one of the best songs we ever heard. But they're like, look, guys, we feel like this song you have, it's called American Dream, is perfectly made for radio and a record. And we were like, fine. Say all that to say, when you go into these sessions, our job is to put out what we think our listeners want to hear. We were pitched that song. We did not write that song. We were pitched that song, and Ben was homesick. I was in the room at the record label, and we were sitting there listening to it, and he was on FaceTime. And they started playing the song. And midway through the first verse, I leaned over to look at the phone, and this guy was like,
I want it.
Yeah.
I want it. I want it.
Yeah. And so he ended up he made the very risky decision to wake up his wife
I did. I woke her up.
because once again she can beat him up.
Exactly. So I woke up my wife at 10:30 at night. My wife loves her sleep. Loves it. Loves her sleep. I woke her up and I said, "You've got to come into the living room with me and hear the song." And so she's sitting there like, it got to the chorus and she went, "Oh." She said, "That's the song." She said, "That's y'all's song. That is you and Chris. That is y'all's live performance in one song right there." And I said, "Yes, ma'am, it is." So I went, "Yes."
Yeah, so that was the one no-brainer that we did not fight against even for 1 second. Because we say this quite a bit, but that is the audio representation of what our live show is visually. It's just the energy and you can sense the urgency behind it, and that's kind of what we're known for out on the road. Is when you come to our live show, you are going to have a party. And we know you spend a lot of time and sometimes money to come see us, and we're going to make sure you have a party, and Blacktop Don't is the anchor for that.
Like I said, it's one of my favorites from the moment I heard it. I think I had the same thought of, okay, that's just a good song. And obviously you were able to put out your self-titled debut EP, but EPs are nice, but it sounds like more is along the way.
Oh, yeah.
We have a full length coming out later this year. Actually, like we mentioned, American Dream and Good Woman are going to be on there. Good Woman is a song that we everywhere. We actually had somebody on the radio during a live radio performance. The radio host actually started crying not too long ago, and it's not necessarily because of our performance, but it resonated. The words resonate. We wrote about, like, the American dream is not necessarily, having tons of money and living in a mansion and doing all these things. The American dream is just getting by and loving your family and being with your family. We wrote a song about that. We're still writing the rest of the album. We're going to have 12 tracks on it. And so it's going to be coming out later this year, and we are extremely excited about what's coming.
No, and it sounds like you got some really cool things happening, and clearly you also enjoy performing on the stage and so forth. You guys tour constantly. My daughter had to ask another question,
you got those daughters, man. Take care of them first. That's where it's at.
And but you guys love to tour pretty consistently. You made your CMA Fest debut recently. Like you said, you're getting ready to go out again. What is it that you just love about being out there and on stage?
Oh, I don't know about this for Chris, but I know the biggest thing for me, and is I've always loved meeting people. Mm. The people are everything to what we do, and he knows this. I'll talk to a brick wall. They don't leave me unattended anywhere.
And that's not figurative. We actually assign somebody to watch him. When we're on the road and we have limited time, we actually assign a band member to watch him.
There's an accountability partner on the road.
And that is not a joke. We dead serious. If we're all in the vehicle and Ben's not there, the first question out of somebody's mouth is, who left Ben unattended? And that is a serious question.
But I mean, that's true. But at the end of the show, during the show, before the show, whatever it is, we love the people, and that's the main thing for us. Is we want to meet everybody, we want to see everybody, we want to talk to everybody, and I grew up in a hair salon. My mom's owned a hair salon for 40 years. That's kind of where I've got that from. So I just want to talk to everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, another part of it is there is a brotherhood that's developed when you're on the road, and it's something, we both played sports, and you get some of it there, but there's so many people involved that you do have a brotherhood in playing sports. But when you have 5 people that are traveling thousands and thousands and thousands of miles, all of which who have families and kids at home, and you're all together, I'll be honest. One of my favorite things is, I'll tell you, Ben and I, we will get in huge arguments, and then we will literally, the second we're done, everybody around us is like, they hate each other. We're like, what are we gonna eat? Let's go eat.
That's exactly what we do too. It's like, no, I don't like this. No, I don't like this. Chicken.
What do you think?
Or steak?
Why are you such a jerk? You're a jerk. You're a jerk. You're a jerk. Yeah. Want Subway?
Chicken
Let's
or
go get
steak?
Subway.
Chicken or
we'll
steak?
see y'all later. We're gonna get Subway. So there's a brotherhood that's developed. We have the same guys with us. Even when we have to have a sub on the road, it's the same couple people that will come out with us every time. We don't bring new people into the mix hardly ever. And yeah, that's one of my favorite things.
Very rare occasion if we ever do that.
Mm-hmm. We have a family that's not immediate family, but they're still our family.
Well, it makes perfect sense, and it sounds like that's just who you are from the beginning, and how things should be. And like you said, brothers do get in arguments, but they do love each other at the end of the day.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll tell you. I
think, right?
If you try to pile on Ben when I'm yelling at him, you're gonna get it. This is how it goes. Like I can yell at him, y'all can't. Like, y'all can't yell at him. I'll yell at him. If you yell at him, I'm yelling at you. We're getting into it. So that's how it goes.
And I don't yell at anybody usually. There are a few times.
You just get stuck talking to people.
Is, if I'm yelling at you, something has really gone bad. So,
Well, hopefully nothing's going bad here, because like I said, a lot of things are going y'all's way. Like I said, Blacktop Dalton's great. Your self-tape debut EPs out, self-titled debut EPs out, and like you said, you got the album coming here soon as well. So what else can folks expect from you this year that you're allowed to say that won't get you in trouble by anyone?
Allowed to say we have some videos coming out. We even have videos from previous songs that we've had in the coffers that we are going to dust off that are tell a different story of some of the songs that we have out right now. We have the full-length album coming out. We are out on the road basically for the rest of the year. We are continuing to write, and we have, we can't really talk about it right now, but there's some really, really, really big plans for 2024. 2023 setting the stage for a pretty weird year for us.
But we also have a I can loosely say this now, so we have
cables.
But we have a couple different businesses that we're finally able to sit there and put some time into. So we're excited about that.
Yeah,
as well.
I'll give listeners.
So I'll give them an example.
One example.
Okay,
I'll tell you what. When you're on the road, there's two things that happens. One is you end up you use a lot of cables, instrument cables, XLRs, a lot of different things that have a lot of really dirty noise,
subpar,
or they fall apart very easily. And we have resolved that conundrum, and we have something called Boom Cables that's going to be available for everybody here in the next couple months, and it's on par with the biggest in the industry, the best in the industry, but made by musicians for musicians, and they are priced for musicians.
But since this is a drinking podcast,
there's that too.
We also have another thing that's happening with probably within 6 months. We're experimenting right now, but we're also we have another company called BoomShine, and so we are going to start having our own line of moonshine, and which will progress to a good whiskey, but that'll be another 6 to 8 years down the road after we bottle.
Stay tuned for 8 years, and we'll
stay tuned for that. But the moonshine will come out first.
Evan's gonna get us to 8 years, but
that's yes.
But then we'll probably be solely.
I love you,
moonshine.
My liver doesn't, but I do.
Okay. Hey, those sound like some pretty good things. I mean, it sounds like some good things.
We're looking forward to them all.
Well, and it sounds also like the next time we have you guys on, we might be drinking some moonshine and not some bourbon.
Oh, we're gonna send you some for sure.
Oh you're gonna get some.
Wait, that sounds really bad. You're gonna get some moonshine.
Moonshine.
Get some moonshine, brother.
Oh, well, Chris, Ben, this has been a blast. Thank you for allowing my daughter to interrupt. She's up a little late tonight. And also, thank you for having a drink with me. This has been a blast.
Absolutely. Hey, and without your daughter interrupting, I mean, is it really even a podcast? You know what I mean? It's that's awesome, man. That's
the coolest part of it.
I keep hearing my daughters running around upstairs, and it's making my heart explode. So this is good stuff.
I see my wife and daughter are at trivia right now. Oh yeah.
So you're a free man.
No. At the Red Robin.
Oh, Red Robin has trivia?
Yeah, no, on Tuesday nights.
Guys, Red Robin has trivia on Tuesday nights.
In Mount Juliet.
See, you even learn new things on this show as well.
Crazy. I had no idea.
Well, I can tell you a lot of new things that are probably not. Never mind.
We're going to leave that alone, man. We're just going to go on.
and on that note, we will cheers.
Oh, this is important.
By the way, I'm not wearing these to be cool.
Yes.
Or anything like that. Like, these are my colorblind glasses that this guy surprised me with like an a-hole in the middle of like 400 people for our EP release party.
Yeah, so he can see color with those on, and he sees it's crazy. So Enchroma, ENCHROMA. For anybody that's interested, Enchroma glasses are they actually sponsored us getting these, and they gave him a couple pairs. And for the first time in his life, he was able to see vivid color for the last 2 weeks. So, yeah, whenever he sees him wearing these sunglasses, he's not trying to make a trademark or anything. Or
I'm just trying to see what things should be, like.
Seeing what labels each bourbon really is.
Exactly. Black. It's black.
No,
It's the black
this
label.
one's great. This was black and white. I could always read that one. I was like, that's probably what drew me to
Well,
it.
so actually, a really cool thing happened the night he got him on. First of all, we were driving home from the venue, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, driving is so insane," because he could see the lights, the tail lights, and the lights in the
like
signs
vividly.
But then I this was another thing that's very interesting. And so, first of all, one thing people don't know is 1 in 12 men are colorblind. So odds are, a lot of people that are colorblind. I did not know that either. But I actually showed him a picture of his wife, and I said, "What color is that skirt?" And he was like, "It's green." And I said, "No, that's orange." And he was saying it for the first time as actual orange and pink as well.
No. I mean, I went home. We have one of my favorite plants is called the praying plant, and it is green with hot pink striations within the leaf. Well, up until this, I couldn't see the hot pink. I thought it was just another green striation, whatever else off of it, just a little bit lighter. I went home that night, and finally my eyes were starting to get used to the glasses, and I looked at that plant, and it was just hot pink, and I went, okay, I got to go to the bathroom before you all see me just break down in tears. And that's exactly what I did. I went to the bathroom and I broke down, and it was for the first time I was able to see that plant in true color. So it was really cool.
That is awesome. Also sounds like you might have a new song coming out soon.
Should have seen it in color.
In color.
We should write that.
We should write. Should have seen it in color.
Oh,
Seen
yeah.
it in color.
That sounds great. We should write that.
Yeah, that's great. I know the story behind that song, actually.
Oh, well, y'all, this has been a pleasure, and thanks again for sharing a drink. I might have to go get a refill here now.
Hey, thank you for having us. It was a great time, man. Thank you very much for having us on this evening.
Thank you.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.